I kind of feel like I'm, made for this. I'm built for this. I'm built for this.
Until we get that Super Bowl trophy.
Hey guys, Swift here breaking down everything Justin Fields. I have been working on this video since I started this channel. 4 months in the making. Today's video is all about QB1 Justin Fields.
It's my quarterback.
Justin Fields!
People say a lot of things about Justin, but I am here to give you the ultimate breakdown and tell you exactly why I believe that Justin Fields will be a superstar in the NFL. Before I get started, this is the video that I need you to hit that like button on. Whatever social media you rock with, share it with your friends and family. They all need to be fans of Justin Fields. But for real, hit that like button, share this on Facebook, Insta, TikTok. I don't care. It's time to talk about our QB1, Justin Fields.
Justin Fields!
I have heard all of the narratives. Ohio State QBs are never good. Chicago has never had an elite QB. In team history, we've never had a 4,000-yard passer in a single season. The Bears have never had a QB even throw for 30 touchdowns in a season. Today, I'm going to dig into why Justin Fields will destroy every one of those narratives and become the best quarterback in Chicago Bears history. Some quick notes on the guy before I dig too deep in this. He has excelled at reading defenses and changing plays at the line of scrimmage since high school. He has one of the biggest arms in the entire NFL and can throw the ball 70 plus yards on a dime. He has legit 4.3 speed and insane agility with a rare combination of power to go with it. He plays his best in big games. He's a leader with an incredible work ethic that inspires his teammates. On top of all that, he's not just smart. He scored the highest IQ test in NFL prospect history. Out of 16,000 plus quarterbacks that have taken the Wonderlic test, Justin Fields scored the highest of all time. Out of all the big-time QBs in last year's draft, Fields had the highest accuracy numbers and the highest ball placement scores, showing just how elite his accuracy is as well. One of the most consistent ways to judge a quarterback over time is his passing numbers out of a clean pocket. Justin Fields had the highest rating in the last 7 years in that category. besting even guys like Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, and all the guys from his own draft class like Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, and Trey Lance. He has the most throws past his first read out of all of those guys, but somehow is the one who got labeled as the guy who can't read defenses. I wonder why that is. He is the most accurate downfield passer. He was elite 30-plus yards downfield, throwing 18 touchdowns and 0 interceptions on passes of 30-plus yards. He had the highest average yards per target. He also had the highest amount of throws past the first down marker and had the highest accuracy on throws past the first down marker and on throws past his first read. He was also the most accurate at 10 plus and 30 plus yards downfield. He was the Elite 11 MVP and champion over Trevor Lawrence. He's the only player in Big Ten history with 40 passing touchdowns and 10 rushing touchdowns in the same season. Stat boys love the win above replacement metrics, known as WAR. Justin Fields leads all quarterbacks over the last 3 years in wins above replacement rating. Higher than Joe Burrow, higher than Tua, higher than Trevor Lawrence, higher than Justin Herbert, and all the others. He has excelled at reading defenses and changing plays at the line of scrimmage since high school. In just 10 games last year, Justin Fields was a top 6 rushing quarterback, top 5 in yards after contact. In his last 5 games, he graded out as a top 6 quarterback in the NFL. When under pressure, he was the second most accurate quarterback in the league with a 79.5% completion percentage while being pressured. He also had the best completion percentage when his wide receivers were covered and the highest accuracy percentage on deep balls in the entire league. He was first in the NFL in big time throw percentage in his rookie year. He was second in the NFL at play action passing with a 102.2 passer rating and 8.9 yards per attempt and a 13.3 ADOT. Justin Fields is simply a generational talent. Now let's get into it.
It's my quarterback.
I kind of feel like I'm, made for this. I'm built for this.
Justin Fields. Justin Fields making magic happen. There goes Fields. Touchdown.
Every one of the issues that people nitpick on to fit their narratives are correctable. Justin Fields has more raw talent than any quarterback in Chicago Bears history. He's big, fast, strong, accurate, incredibly intelligent, a leader, a hard worker, and most importantly, he's a Chicago Bear. That is the number one reason to root for this kid, but I don't just root for him. I believe with every fiber of my football knowledge that Justin Fields will be a star. It was a dream come true for me when we got Justin Fields. I wanted Fields as our quarterback years ago. He showed his elite talent in high school and rivaled Trevor Lawrence every step of the way. While fans fawned over guys like Daniel Jones, Kyler Murray, Dwayne Haskins, Tua, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and even Jordan Love, I've had my eye on this 2021 draft class featuring Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields for a long time. Both were seen as generational prospects. It was a foregone conclusion for years that Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence would go 1 and 2 once they reached the NFL draft. After Fields' historic performance against Clemson, he should have locked in his spot as a top 2 pick. He beat Trevor Lawrence by throwing 6 touchdowns and gutting out a rib injury that should have knocked him out of the game. So how did Trey Lance and Zach Wilson get picked ahead of him? How on earth did Fields slide all the way to number 11? Similar to Deshaun Watson in 2017, Fields fell outside the top 10 to number 11 overall. It's because these false narratives crept in. He was called lazy, and people questioned his work ethic, even though he has shown he has legendary work ethic at every stop along the way. Every teammate and coach he has ever played for all vouches for his work ethic and leadership. We saw it last year in his rookie season. We've seen it all off season long as he leads his teammates in extra practices and stays late in the gym. He comes in on his off days. The kid is always working. Anyone questioning his work ethic has fallen off their rocking chair. These narratives are insane and biased. They come from media reporters like Dan Orlovsky, who immediately backed off his take and apologized for the comment. Every one of Justin Fields' teammates and coaches from high school to Georgia to Ohio State to even the Bears coaching staff and teammates from last year and this year have went out of their way to praise Fields' work ethic. He is a true leader. His teammates last year as a rookie and continuing on to this year have done nothing but sing him praises. Players go out of their way to praise his leadership and work ethic. He and Darnell Mooney have been seen late after practice and in the weight room and out on the field running routes routinely. On top of that, they have spent the offseason working out together. Think about this for a moment. After his 2019 season, Fields was already a guaranteed first-round pick. A lot of guys set 2020 out amongst COVID. The Big Ten had canceled their season. What did Justin Fields do from this point on? He led a rally and organized people together to get the season back on. He was a big part of the reason why the Big Ten played football that year. He went on to lead his team to the national championship with a win over Clemson. Somehow, that guy was called lazy. Why would someone say that when none of his teammates or coaches have ever said it? One simple reason, guy. Dan Orlovsky isn't the only person guilty of it. Most of Chicago media is too. Some even make a living off it. What is it? Some of you guessed it, clickbait. That is how the media works nowadays. There isn't a single shred of evidence that Fields isn't a hard worker. It was simply made up. But somehow the media guys still let that story get out, and it was talked about for months before the draft last year. I heard the narratives all spring, and I loved it. I thought, hey, this gives him a chance to fall in the draft like Watson and others before him did. We just need pace to come through and bring this kid to Chicago. It happened. It was like a dream come true. I wanted it to work with Nagy. But like most rational fans, I knew that Nagy could potentially be detrimental to Fields' development just like he was with Mitch Trubisky. It started immediately when Nagy wasn't giving him reps with the first team during training camp. Nagy defended his decision, but it quickly came back to bite him as Fields had to take over for Andy Dalton in week 2 of the season. Unprepared and having spent almost no time with the first team, Fields looked every bit like a rookie. His stats on the year were far from impressive. Matt Nagy's play calling had already been exposed at the NFL level, and it was criminal that Pace didn't fire him after week 2. Let's break down some of the reasons why Justin Fields didn't have success in his rookie season. The offensive line. To understand just how bad the offensive line was last season, I have studied advanced metrics. I have watched the tape. I have watched other, more savvy guys break down the tape. It all points to the same thing. The Bears' offensive line last season was hideous, and the play calling made it even worse. When looking at how fast pressure got to Bears quarterbacks last year, we go to the advanced metrics. The Bears crossed the pressure threshold a full half second earlier than the NFL average. Looking at the chart, it shows the Bears quarterbacks were always under pressure. That kind of offensive line play is unacceptable, which is why 4 of last year's opening day starters are gone. Foles is rebuilding this line, but when Justin did have a clean pocket, he made throws that only a handful of QBs in the NFL can make. His arm strength and ball placement are elite. If we protect Justin Fields, he will make a lot of noise in the NFL. Last year, he faced pressure on nearly 50% of his dropbacks, worst in the entire NFL. He also averaged less than 2.5 seconds to throw and was pressured within 2 seconds on nearly 30% of his dropbacks, also most in the entire league. He had the 24th most dropbacks, but he was sacked the 11th most times. To make matters worse, the play calling didn't do him any favors and put him in simply awful positions. Now let's talk about his weapons. Darnell Mooney came into the league as a 5th round pick and surpassed all expectations. He earned a starting role and had a big challenge coming into the year as our number 2 wide receiver. He was a bright spot and actually played like a number 1 wide receiver for most of the year. Meanwhile, Allen Robinson and the rest of the receiving corps took a year off. The second most reliable weapon was also a second-year player, tight end Cole Kmet. Kmet gets a ton of hate, and I see fans writing him off already. I have to point out that Cole Kmet was 22 years old. It's important to note that not a single tight end in the NFL currently had a 60-catch season before the age of 23. Most tight ends don't come into form until age 25, especially two-way tight ends that can block. Other guys that are just receivers, you can't really count them. Look at Travis Kelce, Greg Olsen, Darren Waller, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, and others for examples. None of them broke out until they were 25 years old. I'll have to do a full Cole Kmet breakdown in a video soon. Justin Fields has been seen this offseason working out with Darnell Mooney on a consistent basis. Recently, other teammates have joined in as well, like Cole Kmet, Bayless Jones Jr., and others. Fields was working on his ball security, quicker drops, shortening his delivery, and having better footwork and anticipation. You can see he put in a ton of work over the offseason. Kmet and Mooney both stepped up last year and are big bright spots moving forward. However, we need more weapons in the passing game. This offseason, we have added Byron Pringle, Bayless Jones Jr., N'Keal Harry, Equanimous St. Brown, Dante Pettis, and more, and made a lot of additions on the offensive line as well. Darnell Mooney was the second tallest receiver on the entire team last year, behind only A-Rob. This year, it's a completely new ball game. The wide receiver room is full of big, physical, athletic players, and Mooney isn't even in the top 8 of our tallest receivers anymore. He is suddenly looking up. People want to talk bad about our weapons this season. However, I believe they are much better than what we had last year. I think Justin Fields will have a lot more playmakers on the field with him, and you should see that translate into more success. The biggest question mark to me is how the newly formed offensive line pans out. Now let's rip apart some of these other narratives. People say if Justin Fields was that good, he would have gotten drafted higher. This simply isn't true in the NFL. Tom Brady was a 6th round pick. Russell Wilson was a 3rd round pick. Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers both slid to the end of the 1st round, while tons of busts have got taken way before them. Just recently, Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson slid right where Fields slid to. Meanwhile, the Ryan Leafs, Mitch Trubisky's, Baker Mayfield's, and Zach Wilson's of the world were going number 2 overall. The NFL has long struggled at properly evaluating quarterbacks out of college since the NFL draft existed. The second narrative to kill here is Ohio State QBs are always bad. Guys, if you take one thing away from my channel, this would be what I want you to take. Please stop judging players based on the helmets they wore in college. Judge the player, not the helmet. What school they went to has nothing to do whether or not they will be successful in the NFL. These kind of thought processes are what led teams to pass on guys like Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes was written off by some because of the college he went to and the system he was in, the air raid. Don't be one of those guys. Realize that every single player is different, and the color and logo of someone's college football helmet does not matter. It's plain and simple. Where a guy went to college doesn't matter other than evaluating the talent he went against. Now let's talk a little bit about the coaching last year. Not only was Nagy's offense flawed, but he also failed at coaching the player. The coach has to get a player ready to play. Everyone knew Justin Fields would be on the field sooner rather than later. So why wasn't Matt Nagy preparing him for that? Just another mystery of Nagy thinking he is smarter than everyone and it coming back to haunt him. Good riddance, Matt Nagy. This team is so much better off without you. Justin Fields, in an interview after transferring to Ohio State and having success, attributed that success to the coaches at Ohio State believing in him and giving him the reps he needed. Fields said it quite simply: the more reps I get, the better I get. The more times I throw to a receiver, the better our chemistry is. It's really a simple concept, yet Matt Nagy wanted no part of it. The biggest example of malpractice when it came to coaching with Matt Nagy was his non-use of the play-action pass. Smart coaches establish the run and use play action to get quarterbacks going, especially young guys. Guess what rookie quarterback had the most play action passes last year? Mac Jones, coached by the great Bill Belichick. And now let me ask you, which quarterback had the least amount of play action passes? You guessed it, it was Justin Fields and the Matt Nagy-led Chicago Bears. To make matters worse, Fields actually graded out as the best play-action quarterback out of all the rookies, beating Trev Lawrence and Mac Jones. But just like Nagy did with Mitch, he failed to call the plays that fit his quarterback's strengths. And Nagy once again showed he does not belong in the NFL as a play caller. Speaking of that, he also didn't do Fields any favors, as we ran the play action less than almost any team in the NFL and less than all other rookie quarterbacks, but we were also 27th in the NFL in designed rollout percentage. Matt Nagy actually rolled out Andy Dalton more than he rolled out Justin Fields, meaning he once again didn't put Justin Fields in the best position to succeed. That was always an issue with Matt Nagy. Just think that Mac Jones rolled out more times than Justin Fields last year. That is legit insane to me. Matt Nagy should be arrested. Now let's get back to the positives. Even with all of that working against him, Fields still showed plenty of promise. The flashes of brilliance were there at times, and his advanced metrics showcase it as well. As far as first down passing percentage goes, Fields was 5th best in the entire NFL. He was 9th in the NFL in accuracy outside of the pocket. He was 2nd in the entire league in big-time throw percentage, tied with Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. He was top 5 in the NFL in efficiency out of the play action. Now we need to talk for a minute specifically about Justin Fields' deep ball. He was third in the entire NFL at throwing the deep ball. Even with terrible O-line play, he still only trailed Josh Allen and Justin Herbert in accuracy when throwing 20-plus yards downfield. He was better than Pat Mahomes, better than Joe Burrow, better than Aaron Rodgers, better than Tom Brady, and all other quarterbacks in the league. These stats were similar in college as well, as he was the number 1 rated deep passer coming into the draft. Think about all that for a second. He was one of the best to do it in college. The skill clearly translated to the NFL, and even though he didn't have many weapons, the offensive line was horrible, and his play caller was out of his league and not helping him out, Justin Fields still, somehow, managed to be third in the entire NFL in deep ball accuracy. That is incredible. This dude was showing us talent last year, even with everything going against him. Some of us saw it, others didn't, but you will see soon. Let's recap for a moment here. So, Justin Fields is incredibly smart. He has a rocket for an arm. To go with his rocket arm, he has pinpoint accuracy and elite ball placement skills, and he can throw on the run. So what are we missing? Oh, that's right. We haven't even talked about his legs yet. Justin's athletic ability is next level. The kid has special arm talent, but you can't forget about his athleticism. Not only is Justin blazing fast with legit 4.3 speed, but he is also built like a truck at 6'3", 225 pounds. Even only playing part of the season, Fields was third in the entire NFL in runs of 10-plus yards in the fourth quarter, trailing only Jonathan Taylor and Nick Chubb, both elite running backs. Watching Justin Fields run with the ball is magical. To go with his 4.3 speed, he also possesses absolutely elite athleticism. When he takes off running, it's a beautiful thing. Insane agility, incredible cutting ability, runs with grace and power that is hard to describe without seeing for yourself. It is incredible to see a 6'3", 225-pound player take off with his rare blend of blazing fast speed and power that is more commonly seen in that of an NFL running back, not a quarterback. Justin has always been one of the best athletes on the entire field. Since high school, he was in college, and he is in the NFL. Nothing showcased this more than a special run last year against the 49ers. He took a broken play, broke a couple of ankles, cut back, went all the way across the field, used his patience, let his blockers set up, and then burst into the end zone. This was against a defense loaded with Pro Bowl caliber players, and Fields made them all look slow. He has all of the talent and tools that you could ever dream of in a quarterback. He is literally built for this. Size, speed, agility, strength, passion, work ethic, arm strength, accuracy, ability to process information, leadership. He has it all. His rushing ability is truly special, though. He has as much athletic ability as any player I have ever seen put on a Chicago Bears uniform in my life, and I mean that. Even in his inconsistent rookie season in Matt Nagy's offense, Fields was still third in the NFL in deep passing percentage, top 5 in accuracy out of play action passing, second in the NFL in big time throw percentage, and had the third most 10-plus yard runs in the fourth quarter in the entire league. If that doesn't showcase his talent, I don't know what will. That brings me to my next point. Even though Justin has elite athleticism and 4.3 speed, he is a passer first. His arm is truly special. This makes him incredibly dangerous, as he can use his athletic ability to buy extra time to throw a 70-yard rocket downfield, or he can take off for a 40 to 50-yard run on his own. A lot of analysts want to typecast him as a running quarterback. This simply isn't true. Since high school, Fields has led his teams with incredible arm talent, but also amazed by keeping plays alive or taking off with his incredible speed when necessary. His deep ball is among the best graded over the last 20 years in college football. His accuracy and ball placement is precise. He has Russell Wilson's arm with Lamar Jackson's legs. Now let's talk a little bit about Justin Fields' background and his story. He has been a special talent since high school. He grew up in Kennesaw, Georgia. His sisters are also athletic. His sister Jaden Fields is a softball star who is attending college at the University of Georgia. Justin Fields' father, one Pablo Fields, knew that Justin wanted to play quarterback from a young age. He said, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it the right way. His father knew about all the stereotypes put on young black quarterbacks. They are athletes first. They don't work hard. They're lazy. They're not smart enough. The narratives are mind-blowing. This is why Pablo hired a coach to train Justin on how to be an NFL quarterback starting in 7th grade. Justin Fields' mom also talks about how she played him classical music in the crib to open up his mind and extend his learning capability. It obviously worked, as Justin scored the highest IQ or Wonderlic test of any quarterback that has ever taken it. Fields isn't just smart, he processes information at an elite level. The Trevor Lawrence rivalry goes way back. These two grew up about 20 minutes away from each other. Trevor Lawrence was the golden boy and earned his top ranking earlier than Fields did. Fields had a big growth spurt his sophomore year. His body changed a lot, and that year was his hardest yet. He bounced back his junior and senior seasons and rose to the number 2 quarterback prospect in the nation behind only Trevor Lawrence. He led his team to a state championship and finished his last 2 years of high school with 6,283 yards and 69 touchdowns. The Fields-Lawrence rivalry reached a new level when they attended Quincy Avery's Elite 11 quarterback camp. Following the incredible junior and senior seasons, Fields and Lawrence went head-to-head at the Elite 11 camp. It's the most prestigious high school quarterback camp in the world. Basically, they get 20 plus of the best high school quarterbacks in the nation. They then whittle it down to the top 11. Everyone had Lawrence picked to win, but Justin Fields had something to prove. He is a competitor. Justin Fields was by far the best player on the field that day, taking home the MVP award over Trevor. He scored on 70% of his TD drives for the camp. The rest of the Elite 11 quarterbacks scored on average around 20% of their drives. This would not be the end of their rivalry. His work ethic and laser focus was coming into form. He had set his sights on being the best quarterback prospect in the country, and he worked harder every single day to kill the narrative that Trevor Lawrence is better than him. He displayed the leadership of a professional and the work ethic of a true leader by the age of 17. After blowing up his last 2 seasons and capping it off with an Elite 11 MVP, Fields got offers from pretty much every school in the nation. He chose to stay close to home. His sister Jaden was already committed to Georgia on a softball scholarship, so it made a lot of sense for Justin. Other schools had offered him a starting job, but Georgia had an established starter, Jake Fromm. Justin is not scared of competition, and he committed to Georgia. A lot of people thought that Fields was making a mistake, but they don't understand it was his competitive nature. He wasn't scared of Jake Fromm. He knew he was the better player. Unfortunately, coaches don't often bench quarterbacks with winning records who have appeared in big games for an unproven freshman. There were some other issues that happened at the school, and Justin decided to enter the transfer portal and headed to the University of Ohio State. It's at Ohio State where Fields took his game to yet another new level. He continued getting bigger, faster, and stronger, and immediately showed his skill set off at Ohio State. He showed out in his first game and let the world know he was still just as good as Trevor Lawrence and ready to lead his team to big, big things. He threw 4 touchdowns and ran for a 5th in his first start. He then went on to have a magical season, breaking a lot of Big Ten and Ohio State records along the way, and he led his team to the college football playoffs. The stage was set again, the Fiesta Bowl, Ohio State versus Clemson, and it was Justin Fields versus Trevor Lawrence yet again, this time on a much larger stage. It was an epic game, but Fields threw a late interception on a miscommunication, and this round went to he is the best quarterback prospect in the nation. COVID happened. The Big Ten season was canceled, and things looked bleak. Fields then would go on to lead a rally to get the season back. It worked. He would get another chance, and he would not disappoint, leading his team back to the college football playoffs again and getting his rematch versus Trevor Lawrence. Fields got his payback and once again showed the entire world why he was the best quarterback in the nation and not Trevor Lawrence. Justin was sensational and had a magnificent performance. It was one for the ages. He was 22 of 28 for 385 yards and 6 touchdowns. They blew out Clemson, 49-28. Most of the world thought that Clemson would win that game easily, and Justin Fields yet again made a statement to stop doubting him. I watched that game and walked away thinking there was no way that Justin Fields would fall past number 2 in the draft and should probably go number 1 overall. Narratives, good luck, and a million other things had to happen for Justin Fields to end up here in Chicago. But he did. I'll talk more about that in just a minute. First, I want to talk a bit about the similarities between his time at Georgia to Ohio State and his first 2 years in Chicago. Think about this for a minute and how Fields' time in Georgia prepared him for what he is going through this year. A lot of these first-round rookie quarterbacks, like Trevor Lawrence, for example, are pampered from high school on. Fields went through struggles, and what happened in Georgia is eerily similar to his first season in Chicago. In his freshman season at Georgia and his rookie year in Chicago, both seasons he was behind an established veteran quarterback and never given a fair shot to compete for the job, even though in both cases he was by far the most talented player. As a freshman, it was Jake Fromm at Georgia. As a rookie, it was Andy Dalton. Also, in both instances, his coach not only didn't give him a chance to compete for the starting job, but also didn't utilize him correctly either. The best news is how Fields bounced back in his sophomore season. This time, he was with a coach that believed in him. He was the unquestioned starter, and the coach understood how to utilize his talents. This led to Justin throwing 41 touchdowns to 3 interceptions and then adding another 10 touchdowns rushing. That's right, in his first year as a starter, he scored 51 touchdowns and had 3 interceptions. That is how he responded after what happened at Georgia. Now we enter year 2 of Justin Fields' NFL career, and he is facing a similar situation, motivated and ready to respond after a year where everything went wrong. Just like at Ohio State, he now has a coaching staff that believes in him. He's also the unquestioned starter, and it also seems like this coaching staff understands how to utilize Justin Fields' talents just like Coach Day did at Ohio State. His NFL career is starting eerily similar to how his college career started off. Simply put, Justin Fields is built for this. He is going to be special. He has all the talent in the world, and he just needs a bit of time to put it all together. Don't doubt Justin Fields. So after everything that happened in college, what happened? How did Justin Fields fall all the way to number 11? Why did teams pass on him? How did Trey Lance and Zach Wilson go ahead of him? We are beyond lucky that he fell to us in the draft. The amount of things that had to come together for it to happen is legit insane. One of the biggest things is he never should have fallen out of the top 5, let alone the top 10. He is a generational talent. If he was in the draft this year, he would have easily been the number 1 pick. The fact that the Lions, Panthers, Falcons, and Broncos all passed on him was shocking. Not to mention the Jaguars, Jets, and 49ers all taking other QBs not named Justin Fields. Even after all that happened, we then had to trade up. No way was Fields going to fall all the way to 20 for us. The Vikings, Commanders, and others were eyeing him, and other teams were thinking of trading up if he kept falling. Our GM at the time was Ryan Pace. The last QB he drafted was when he traded up for Mitch Trubisky. After that, he traded for Nick Foles. Plus, he had already sunk another $10 million into signing Andy Dalton. To me, that was another dead giveaway that Pace was going to pick another quarterback. He did the same thing the year he traded up for Mitch, signing Mike Glennon. The biggest question was, would ownership allow him to trade a future first-round pick to move up and take another quarterback, even though he's most likely going to be fired after the year? That's a big risk, especially with how bad his track record of quarterbacks were. Somehow, Ryan Pace convinced the ownership to let him do it. Maybe it was the Twitter hype that Chicago Bears fans had been building all offseason, but somehow ownership agreed to it. So first, we needed Fields to actually fall down the board. Then we needed a lot more luck. We needed him to get around to pick number 10 to at least have a realistic shot at moving up for him. There were a lot of pieces that had to fall into place perfectly. It happened though. The Jaguars, Jets, and Niners all took QBs not named Fields. The Lions went with an offensive tackle over their quarterback of the future. And then the Broncos and Panthers made similar decisions, but for big-time cornerback prospects. I loved both prospects, but choosing them over Fields when your team needs a quarterback was crazy to me. The first 9 picks were turned in, and Justin Fields' name was still on the board. I was pacing around my house like a madman at this point. Come on, Ryan Poles. We need to make a move before someone else does. Next up were the Cowboys, Giants, and Eagles. A trade takes place. It's not Chicago. It's the Eagles moving up 2 spots, jumping the Giants. Mel Kiper and the guys are talking about how the Eagles might be taking Justin Fields here. I had my fingers crossed, hoping that Jalen Hurts had showed enough that they wouldn't take Fields here. They didn't. They took Devontae Smith, the wide receiver, at number 10. Wow. Justin Fields somehow fell outside of the top 10. There was one last significant piece of the puzzle that had to fall into place. We had to get the New York Giants to trade back. Dave Gettleman had never traded back in the first round, ever in his entire career. The next thing that might have helped seal the deal was the trade that had just happened. When the Eagles traded up for Devontae Smith and took him right before the Giants pick, they stole the guy that Gettleman had targeted. They had lost the player they wanted, and Gettleman then had a decision to make. Ryan Pace was on the phone, and before long a deal was made. The Giants GM, Dave Gettleman, would trade back for the first time ever. The final step was Pace not messing it up again and taking Mac Jones or someone else. I was terrified at this point and going crazy with anticipation at the same time.
My Chicago Bears select Justin Fields, quarterback, Ohio State.
Ooh, big sigh. It all worked out. Everything fell into place, and now Justin Fields is a Chicago Bear. It will go down as one of the best Chicago Bears memories of my life. I have never been more excited or happy on draft day. Over the years, I had become used to being heartbroken. Things like Aaron Donald going one pick before us, or taking guys like Kevin White, Shea McClellan, or then the worst, the last time we traded up for a quarterback, I also had my heart set on a guy. My guy was Deshaun Watson. When we moved up to number 2 overall, I thought Ryan Pace was taking him. I was sure that Watson was the guy when we moved up to number 2. Pace broke my heart and took Mitch Trubisky. Those years were hard for me as a Bears fan. I supported Mitch and was even labeled a truther, but all along I wanted Deshaun Watson. This situation felt eerily similar again, and even though I did predict we would trade up to a pick between 10 and 12 and get Fields if he fell, the moment we traded up, I was overcome with fear. What if Pace does it to me again? What if he takes Mac Jones instead of Justin Fields? I dropped to my knees and was basically praying, saying, please, Justin Fields, please, Justin Fields, not Mac Jones, not Mac Jones. Please be Fields. Please, please. It happened. Justin Fields was a Chicago Bear. I immediately had more hope and optimism for our Bears than I had since our Super Bowl appearance in 2006. It's what led me to create this channel. I was also pretty negative a lot the last couple of years before we landed Justin. I tried to believe in Mitch, but I knew Matt Nagy was a fraud all the way back in 2019. He exposed himself to me, and I knew we wouldn't be good until Nagy was gone. After getting Fields, the next thing I wanted was Matt Nagy gone. I tried to be optimistic and say maybe Nagy can't mess it up with Fields. He's too talented. Nagy disproved this theory quickly. Honestly, I was shocked that he wasn't fired mid-season last year. He was an awful head coach and did absolutely nothing to help Justin Fields last season. So it did happen. Nagy was gone, and then we got a GM and head coach that seemed like great choices for building a team around Justin Fields. The future is as bright as it's been in my entire life right now. We finally got a quarterback. He's a true playmaker who made both Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney better last year. They will continue to grow alongside him. Plus, polls added more talent from this year's NFL draft, adding offensive weapons like Velus Jones Jr. and Treston Ebner, as well as 4 promising young linemen. There will be ups and downs, and Fields has to continue improving. He has already shortened his throwing mechanics, improved his release, and improved his footwork, and also he's hard at work on building more chemistry with his teammates. Even if we don't win a lot of games this season, the Chicago Bears games are going to be a ton more fun to watch with Justin Fields at quarterback and Matt Nagy gone as head coach. We as Bears fans may finally get to watch a real superstar develop at the quarterback position. I know it's been a long time since we won, and we have all grown impatient. But please, I beg of you, Bears fans, give Justin Fields a chance. He has more talent than any quarterback we have ever had. And now that Nagy is gone, his future is so bright. Let Poles turn this roster around, but give Justin Fields a chance to shine bright. One of the biggest questions that people ask, not only in the national media, but fans as well, is how can Justin Fields take a step forward if we don't draft all offense or sign big name free agents? One of the narratives is that people think we don't have enough talent around our quarterback. We can always add talent. Chicago media and the national media will die on the hill that we are the cheapest offensive team in the NFL this year. That's right. Our offense has less dedicated cap space to it this season than any other team in the league. Well, instead of pushing the narratives like those other guys, I always tell you the real story. The reason for this is not because Ryan Poles doesn't want Justin to succeed. It's not because we didn't add any weapons this offseason either. We added more weapons this offseason than any offseason I remember. Someone please tell me the last time we added 8 wide receivers in the same year, most of whom are under the age of 25 and a few former first and second round picks, mixed with some productive and talented undrafted guys. We also signed 3 solid veteran offensive linemen and drafted 4 rookie offensive linemen. All of those wide receivers and all of those offensive linemen, and yet you still hear the media saying that Ryan Poles did nothing for Justin Fields and that we didn't bring in anyone this offseason. Why do they say we did nothing or didn't bring in anyone? Because we didn't bring in a player that they heard of, and they are too lazy to look up or research any information about the guys we did sign. We also brought in 2 more running backs, one of the most talented fullbacks in the entire NFL, and 4 more tight ends. Why doesn't anyone talk about that though? It doesn't fit their narratives, and it's not negative. Most of these guys only really enjoy reporting the negatives. The biggest thing Poles did this year is find a large amount of low risk, high upside guys. He actually did bring in a lot of players to help Justin Fields. He just didn't overspend on any of them, and that is what the media is mad about. The Jaguars paid Christian Kirk $37 million guaranteed and a contract worth over $20 million a year and $84 million total. Yeah, that's right. The Jaguars spent more on Christian Kirk, one mediocre receiver, than the Bears spent on Byron Pringle, Equanimous St. Brown, David Moore, Dante Pettis, N'Keal Harry, Tajay Sharp, and Michael Schofield and Lucas Patrick combined. Think about that for a second. Just because the Jaguars spent big money on Christian Kirk, that means they support their quarterback? I prefer Ryan Poles' method every single time. I think it's actually very possible that we could have found 2 guys that are better than Christian Kirk without spending any big time money. Isn't that the better strategy? Are you guys positive that Christian Kirk is worth $80 million more than Byron Pringle, ESB, Dante Pettis, and N'Keal Harry combined? Not me. I'm with Ryan Poles on this one. And I love the weapons and the team he is putting around Justin Fields. We will not be Super Bowl favorites this year. We have a very young team and a brand new coaching staff. We are also installing new systems on offense and defense. This is a transition year, but what we see on the field should look a lot better than what we have seen in previous years. Now to my next point. Quarterbacks always make their biggest jump in year 2. Justin Fields will improve in strides this season. I believe all the fans doubting him will be eating their words and wearing Justin Fields jerseys this time next year. It doesn't mean we're going to the Super Bowl this year, but other than a Super Bowl, what have I wanted as a Bears fan my entire life? For me, it's always been number 1, a Super Bowl. Number 2 is a franchise quarterback that can give us a chance to win Super Bowls. We have never had that guy. Most of us tried to get on board with Rex Grossman, Jay Cutler, and Mitch Trubisky, but none of them had that it factor. Jay Cutler had all the arm talent in the world. His attitude, athleticism, leadership, and other things were all questionable. Justin Fields' talent level overall is miles beyond Cutler's, in my opinion. He is the kind of quarterback I have dreamed about since I was a very young Bears fan. A lot of my optimism comes from that. A lot of fans will say he hasn't proven anything yet, but stop writing him off before he has even had a fair shot. I saved one of my favorite stats and takes for towards the end of the video. I always like to reward those of you that watch till the end. You will be the smartest Bears fans. Justin Fields' turnover-worthy play percentage was second lowest in the entire NFL, meaning he had the second best. He had the highest percentage of bad luck throws of any quarterback in the league. Bad luck throws are plays where the quarterback makes a good pass, but something out of his control caused it to be a negative play. These are usually drops or the wide receiver knocking the ball into the air and it getting intercepted. Fields had the highest percentage of bad luck passes, partially because our wide receivers, outside of Darnell Mooney, simply didn't make any plays last year. They didn't get separation, and they didn't do anything to help our rookie quarterback. It was a similar theme for the year. No help. Not from the coaching staff, not from the offensive line, not from the defense, not from the refs, and not even from the wide receivers. Justin Fields having the second best turnover-worthy play percentage paired with having the highest percentage of bad luck passes really goes to even further lengths to show you how many things went against Justin Fields during his rookie season. This stat is overlooked, and a lot of analysts will simply look at Fields' stats last year and ignore everything that went into it and tell you how bad he was. You guys know by now that is not how we do it at Swift Sports Network. It's all about knowledge over narratives here. Last year was tough all around for Justin. He was still able to showcase his elite skills despite not being put in a position to succeed. He has shown work ethic and leadership skills beyond his age. Nobody knows exactly what the it factor is for an NFL quarterback, but I have studied elite quarterbacks all my life, and if I ever saw a kid coming out of the draft that had that it factor, it is Justin Fields. He is that guy.
A lot of weightlifting, very strong player at the guard spot.
Fields using the legs once more. Look how fast he is. First down. I can't remember there's much buzz being around one Chicago Bears player in my lifetime.
Fields flushed out of the pocket. Throws into the end.
So you guys know by now that I am a big Justin Fields fan and diehard Chicago Bears fan. You see the canvas in the background, the autographed Justin Fields Speed Flex helmet. You see the logo on my channel, more Justin Fields. It's all built around my belief in Justin Fields. I don't even want to get into the amount of rookie cards and t-shirts, hoodies I own. You guys, come on now. You see the jersey, you get the point. I am a huge believer in our QB1. Before I get to my final take and predictions, I wanted to read someone else's final take that I really agree with. This is from Pro Football Focus. It wasn't a dream for Chicago. The Bears actually made a power play and traded up from number 20 to number 11 to draft Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields, PFF's third-ranked prospect in the class and fifth best prospect PFF has ever evaluated. Fields should have been the San Francisco 49ers pick at number 3, but then he was inexplicably passed over by many other quarterback-needy teams. Lions, I'm looking at you. Bears general manager Ryan Pace took advantage of the mistake of others and finally got the Windy City the franchise quarterback it has long been looking for. According to PFF's wins above metric WAA, Fields has been the most valuable quarterback in college football over the last 2 seasons. He made plays both through the air and on the ground, posting a PFF grade of 91.5 in 2019 and 93.5 in 2020. Both were top 5 marks among FBS quarterbacks. Some say he holds on to the ball too long against blitzes and does take more sacks than one would like, but this was more of a product of Ohio State's system and their belief in Justin Fields. And his arm talent, accuracy, athleticism, judgment, and rushing ability are extraordinary. Fields may be the best quarterback this franchise has ever had, and we haven't even seen him play at Soldier Field yet. Cheers to you, Bears fans. The wait is finally over. Now, that was written up last year after the draft. I obviously had similar thoughts on Justin Fields, but that is one of the best summaries I've ever read from Pro Football Focus, so I wanted you guys to hear it from someone else. I thought about adding more takes, but this video is long enough already. You have heard me break it down for about an hour now. So here is my final take on Justin Fields, the prospect. I will break down his career every step of the way as it continues, but these are my final thoughts on him as our future franchise QB. Also, I don't want to hear people saying that I'm putting too much pressure on the guy. He's a first-round pick from the Chicago Bears. Nothing I say will add pressure. He has the pressure of the entire city and organization on his shoulders already. In my opinion, Justin Fields will be the first quarterback in team history to throw for 4,000 yards. He will be the first quarterback in team history to throw for 30 touchdowns in a season. He will someday smash both of those records and create new ones with rushing yards and touchdowns added on as a bonus. He has as much upside as any player in Chicago Bears history. He will be a superstar in this league. He is a legit franchise quarterback. Let me say it one more time for the people in the back that didn't hear me. Justin Fields will be a superstar. This season, Justin Fields should have a lot more chances to showcase how talented of a player he truly is. I know how hard being a Bears fan has been recently, but to me, if you can't find excitement from this team and get behind a guy as talented as Fields, why are you even a fan? I appreciate everyone who watched this video. You know I have some bonus content still coming, So don't go anywhere yet. I just wanted to take a minute to ask my fans to please hit that like button for me on this one. Legit, it took me over 50 hours of work to put this video together, and I really hope you guys all enjoy it. But just do me a favor and remember to hit that like button for me, and please share this one with your friends. Justin Fields. It's my quarterback. My quarterback, man. And I have been this excited since the moment we drafted him. I couldn't be more excited to watch our QB1. Let's go Bears. Bear down.
I'm excited about Justin Fields for sure.
Oh man, I love it. Yeah, that kid.
I already know. All you gotta do is say his name, and your cheeks get red, and it's yeah.
I got a video coming up on Justin Fields, and
he's got the prettiest deep
long.
ball I've ever seen for sure.
Yeah, it's people talked about Rex Grossman having a good deep ball, and like Fields has a better deep ball than Rex Grossman. Is bigger,
more accurate,
stronger, more accurate,
faster,
can throw everywhere in the field, and he runs a 4.3, and he's 220 pounds.
It's my quarterback.
I kind of feel like I'm, made for this. I'm built for this. I'm built for this.
I can't remember there's much buzz being around one Chicago Bears player in my lifetime.
Wait until we get that Super Bowl trophy.
I can't remember there's much buzz being around one Chicago Bears player in my lifetime.
Wait until we get that Super Bowl trophy.
I love it. Yeah, that kid.
I already know. All you gotta do is say his name, and your cheeks get red, and it's
Justin Fields.
Thanks for watching Swift Sports. Remember, hit that like button. Make sure you sub. Until next time, bear down. You're still here? It's over. What are you doing? Go. It's over.